Our today's topic is cell theory versus cell-body concept. By the late 1830s, botanist Matthias Schleiden and zoologist Theodor Schwann were studying tissues and proposed the unified cell theory. Cell theory states that all living things are composed of one or more cells. The cell is the basic unit of life, and the new cells arise from existing cells. In 1893, Thomas Henry Huxley said that cells were not anatomically independent, but they were interconnected into supracellular assemblages. So, supracellular plants and also several animal cell types do not conform to the traditional views of cells as the smallest unit of life. In 1993, then Daniel Mazia proposed cell-body concept. According to this cell-body concept, cell body represents the smallest, autonomous and self-reproducing unit of eukaryotic life. First is cell theory. Cell theory, as I already told you, states that all eukaryotic organisms are composed of cells, and that cells are the smallest independent units of life. Some 20 years later, in a famous aphorism, Omnis cellula is cellula, Rudolf Virchow annunciated that all cells arise only from pre-existing cells. General acceptance of cell theory was finally possible only when the cellular nature of brain tissues was confirmed at the end of the 20th century. So cell theory then rapidly turned into a more dogmatic cell doctrine, and in this form survives up to the present day. In its current version, however, the generalized cell theory developed for both animals and plants is unable to accommodate the supracellular nature of higher plants, which is founded upon a supersymplasm of interconnected cells into which is woven apoplasm, symplasm, and superapoplasm. Furthermore, there are numerous examples of multinucleate sinusoid and xanthia found throughout the eukaryote superkingdom, posing serious problems for the current version of cell theory. Now, all problems with cell theory were forecast by Thomas Henry Huxley in 1853, who was convinced that cells were not anatomically independent, but that they were interconnected into supracellular assemblages. Therefore, for Huxley, this means cells couldn't be the elementary units of life. In fact, current advances in plant cell biology reveal that this view is correct for all higher plants. Strictly speaking, higher plants are supracellular organisms because almost all the cells of a given plant organism are interconnected via cell-to-cell channels known as plasmodesmata. I can see here, these are different cells and these are the interconnections, right? So these cell-to-cell channels are known as plasmodesmata. So these complex communicative and conjunctile channels are not only lined with the plasma membrane, but are also traversed by endoplasmic reticulum. A consequence of the fact that cytoplasm of plant cells are interconnected via these plasmodesmata is that the individuality of the cell is given up in favor of an integrated and corporate cytoplasm that benefits the whole organism, right? So this organismal approach towards multicellularity seems to have allowed sessile plants to adapt to life on land and to evolve even within hostile environments. The continuity of cellular units allows potentially unrestricted exchange of information throughout the plant body. The informational signals being used to rapidly coordinate genome transcription that can either neutralize or take advantage of environmental challenges. Thus, whereas animals and humans are perhaps truly multicellular organisms, higher plants are composed of communicative cytoplasms. So, this organismal theory of plant development stated that it is not the cell but the whole multicellular organism that is the primary unit of plant life. The three main criticisms of cell theory that have been advanced by proponents of the organismal theory are: number one, the organism is not an aggregate of independent living units, but a genuine biological individual in its own right. Second is, a unicellular organism is physiologically analogous and phylogenetically homologous to a multicellular organism, not to one of its constant cells. Third is, multicellularity is the product, not the cause, of the organism's development. Then, after 100 years of discussion, the endosymbiotic concept of cell organization and evolution is now finally widely accepted. The implication of this concept is that the present-day eukaryotic cells represent exemplaries of cells within a cell. Examples of cells within a cell are the sperm cells of higher plants, endosperm of higher plants, and spores within yeast mother cells. There are several well-known examples where not only plant cells but also several animal cell types do not conform to the traditional views of cells as the smallest unit of life. For example, multinucleate sinusoids and syncytia. Sinusoids, are formed as a result of the uncoupling of mitosis from cytokinesis. You can see here, this is sinusoid cells, right? So then syncytium, another multinucleate form, derives from uninucleate cells that have fused together. In plants, syncytia are formed by means of enlargement of plasmodesmata, dissolution of original cell wall, and consequent merging of neighboring cytoplasmic domains. Then, next is cell body concept. So, Daniel Mazia was the first to realize that a close connection between DNA and tubulin molecules would have an immediate impact upon cell theory. He was also the first to suggest that the nucleus with its associated microtubules form a composite structure, which he called cell body. Although this concept was left almost unnoticed. So here it reveals that it's obviously also valid for plant cells. Importantly, cell body represents the smallest unit of life, which is capable of self-organization, self-reproduction, and of responsiveness to diverse external stimuli. So, cell body concept permits an understanding of cellular organization of eukaryotes from an evolutionary perspective. Advances in molecular and cellular biology have provided conclusive evidence that eukaryotic cells are composite structures that incorporate ancient and originally free-living cells. So this feature is especially obvious in plant cells containing both mitochondria and plastin. The cell body concept can cope with well-known fact that the nucleus and microtubule complex often divide independently of the cell in which it resides, this resulting in the sinusotic condition found in all eukaryotes. So, to cope with these problems, as I already told you, Daniel Mazia proposed this eukaryotic cell. Proposed that eukaryotic cell is composed of an elemental cell body whose structure is smaller than the cell and which is endowed with all the basic attributes of the living entity. A complement to the cell body is cell periphery apparatus, which consists of plasma membrane associated with other periphery structures. Importantly, boundary structures of cell periphery apparatus, although capable of some self-assembly, are largely produced and maintained by cell body activities and can be produced from it de novo. So these boundary structures serve not only as mechanical support for the cell bodies, but they also protect them from the hostile external environment and from inappropriate interactions with adjacent cell bodies within the organisms. So cell body concept is useful for understanding eukaryotic cells in their whole complexity. Then cell body concept explains how eukaryotic cells came to be formed from their protocellular predecessors, how the eukaryotic nucleus was formed, why it is so intimately linked with the centrosomes and microtubules, and why mitosis and cytokinesis can be accomplished independently of each other. So this concept also reveals the fundamentally sexual nature of the eukaryotic cytoskeleton. In addition, cell body concept allows for the first time an explanation of the C-value enigma from the perspective of nucleotypic DNA tubulin interactions. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe for more. Thank you.